Hi everyone, my name is Tali and I've been using fast foam for the last 2 years. I want to share with you how I made this beautiful buttercream cake. I'm gonna start with the buttercream, and I have whipping cream in my bowl and I'm adding instant pudding. I'm gonna mix it till stiff peaks. It's gonna take about 2 minutes, even less. And now it looks beautiful. This is what you want it to look like. Now I'm gonna add my butter. I have soft butter. I'm gonna add it spoon by spoon. I switched to the pedal attachment, and I'm slowly adding it. And at first it's gonna look like a huge mess. It's not gonna look like buttercream. It's gonna look like cottage cheese, but you're just gonna have to trust the process. Now I've added almost all of the butter. And this is how it looks like. When it looks like this, it's fine. It's how it's supposed to look like. Now I'm removing half of it to a different bowl, and I'm gonna microwave it for about a minute. And after a minute, this is how it looks like. I'm putting it back in the bowl, and I'm gonna continue mixing it with the pedal attachment. And this is when the magic happens. Please note that up until now I haven't added any sugar, and it's optional. You don't have to add sugar. I'm gonna add some at the end of the process, but you don't have to. And look at that, so magical. Now it's buttercream, it's beautiful, and as you continue mixing it, it's gonna whiten the mixture. It's actually ready to go now, but I'm gonna add some powdered sugar, and I'm gonna write in the description box the complete recipe. So pretty. And of course you don't have to use buttercream in the fast form. You can also use any type of ganache, and I'm gonna make some videos about how to use the ganache in the fast form, but I decided to start with the buttercream because I actually make every cake I do with fast form with buttercream, even the ones I use ganache, because it helps me keep a structured cake. It keeps the cake super stable because my fillings are usually pretty soft, so I always use this buttercream. Now you can see that the buttercream is pretty white, and this is why I would sometimes prefer buttercream over ganache, because of the whiteness. The ganache has a yellowish tone that I usually don't like unless I'm making a yellow cake or something that it doesn't matter if the yellowish tone exists. But if you want a white cake or you want a pastel cake, I think the buttercream is the way to go. Now the buttercream is done. I added everything there is to add, and it's completely smooth and beautiful and ready to go. And when I assemble the cake, this is the texture that I need. It needs to be quite firm. So this is perfect. Now I'm gonna cut my cakes with the crumb cutter. I'm also gonna need the crumb cutter for when I stack the cakes, so I clean it with the paper towel. I don't like washing things as I go along, so I use paper towels to clean up. So now I need to stack the cakes. I'm using the base liner, and the crumb cutter. I'm gonna start with gluing the base liner to the base with the buttercream. And it's really important to use buttercream or ganache to do this part, because if you use something soft like whipping cream or something like that, it's not gonna hold and your cake will float. So use a big amount of buttercream or ganache to glue your cake to the base. And I am now placing the liner inside the comb cutter. Please note that the liner has two different ends. One is straight and one is diagonal. So the straight end needs to be inside and the diagonal part needs to be outside. And now I'm placing the first layer of cake inside the comb cutter. And I'm putting some buttercream and I'm using it as a dam because my fillings are quite soft. So whenever I use soft fillings, I have to use buttercream. It keeps the cake stable and it keeps the filling inside. And I'm pushing it to the sides with my little spatula. Please push it as firm as possible so that the filling won't slip to the sides. I am using whipped cream filling with mascarpone cheese and vanilla extract. And I'm adding chocolate ganache. And if I don't use the buttercream, it won't hold, it will collapse. So I always use buttercream. My liner is 7-inch tall and I usually use 4 layers of cake to fill it. And it reaches about 7-inch, so it's fine. And you just keep it up until you get to the top. So after every layer of cake that I'm adding, I'm pushing the comb cutter up so it keeps my cake straight. You're gonna have to do it at the end of the process too. And when I finish assembling the cake, I'm gonna push the comb cutter all the way to the top. It's super important to do that. It's gonna keep your cake straight and make sure that your cake is completely centered before you put it in the fridge. And I actually put my cake in the freezer for about an hour. So right before I'm about to take it out and check if it's stable enough, I'm gonna need to temper my buttercream. This is how it looks like right now, and it's not good enough to fit the fast foam. If I try to pipe it in this texture to the fast foam, it's not gonna go all the way down. I need to temper it, so just like I did when I first made the buttercream, I'm moving half of the buttercream to a different bowl and I'm gonna microwave it for 30 seconds. And please make sure not to overheat your buttercream, it can ruin it. It will split, you don't want that. So this is how it looks like after 30 minutes in the microwave. And I'm moving it to my bowl. If you want, you can do this part with the pedal attachment like you did it before, but mine was in the dishwasher, so I had to do it by hand. I'm now mixing it and I'm gonna continue doing it until I get to the desired texture. And I need it to be pretty runny and very smooth and not very lumpy. So please make sure to mix it. So this is the second time that I'm microwaving it. And after that it's gonna be perfect for piping. I know you can't see it in the video, but the cream is very white and my kitchen lighting is yellow, so it affects how you see it, but it's very white, it's beautiful. And now I put the cake out of the freezer, and before I'm peeling the liner, I have to check that the buttercream is completely stable. And this is how it peels. Now you're gonna have to clean the liner. I don't like to wash it in between. I don't like to wash it at all, but I definitely don't like to wash it in between the steps. So I'm cleaning it with my cake card, I don't know how you call it, and I'm drying it. I'm drying all the oily parts with the kitchen towel, with the paper towel. And please make sure that the liner is very clean, super important. Now I need to put my cake in the form. So inside the form I'm putting something that can help me elevate the cake, and then I'm gonna put the liner inside the form. And again, make sure that the straight end is on the inside and the diagonal end is on the outside. It's super important. I'm clipping it and I'm pushing it up. And when you start piping the buttercream to the liner, you have to make sure that you don't pipe too much buttercream in one side of the cake, because it's gonna push it towards the liner. Make sure you pipe the buttercream in 4 different spots, like I'm doing right here. And it's really gonna help the cake to stay in place and not shift. I think the first time I used buttercream on a cake, I didn't know that, and I pushed it to the other end and I didn't know what I was doing wrong, and it was really frustrating. So don't make the same mistakes I did. You can see that because of the texture of the buttercream, it really goes all the way down very nicely. Very satisfying to watch. At this point, my goal is not to cover the top as neatly as possible. It's just to cover the sides and to make sure that it's all covered with buttercream. And after I have enough buttercream to cover the sides of the cake, I'm really bashing it to my countertop. And I'm trying to get as much buttercream as I can to cover the sides. And now I'm adding some more buttercream so that I have enough to cover the entire cake. And again, I'm not trying to make the top of the cake completely perfect right now. I just want it to be leveled. I'm taking the crumbs out with a Q-tip, and you might wonder why I didn't do crumb coats. I sometimes do crumb coat my cakes, but for this specific design of the cake I didn't have to, because I knew I have enough elements to cover any imperfections. So I didn't bother doing that. I'm adding some more buttercream until it's completely covered. And again, I'm not trying to make it perfect right now. I'm just trying to get it leveled. I know that in the fast form videos everything looks so fast and perfect, but it's a process and you're gonna have to do the steps. And after I'm done getting rid of all the air bubbles, I'm putting it in the freezer for about 2 hours, I think. And I got my kit, my decoration kit from AliExpress. It cost me 20 shekels. I think it's about $6 or $7. I took my cake out of the fridge and I took it out of the fast form, and this is how it looks like. And it's not perfect. It has crumbs in it, it has holes, and I'm going to show you how to make this imperfect mess into a perfect cake. Super easy. So I first needed to separate the cake from the base and the base liner. I'm gonna do it in 2 steps. I'm gonna first take the base out and then the base liner. If you try to take it out in one go, then it's gonna take a big chunk of the cake with it. So take the time to separate it separately. I'm doing it with a knife. And of course I flipped the cake to a cake base before I did that, and I put parchment paper on the cake so it won't stick to my base. I'm adding buttercream, a good amount of buttercream, and I'm really gluing it to my cake base. I'm pressing it for a few seconds so that the buttercream will chill on the cake. And now I flipped it. You can see that the top doesn't look perfect and the sides don't look perfect. I really want to show you how it really looks like. And I think you'll have the same experience, you know, not everything as we see on videos. And when you buy a product, you need to know how it's gonna work in your kitchen. So I'm gonna close the holes. I'm gonna push buttercream. I'm really pushing the buttercream, not just like adding it to the top. I'm really pushing it inside. And I'm gonna scrape it, and it's gonna close. And this is how it looks like. You can still see that we had a hole in there, but I'm not worried about it. I just want it to be closed. You can put some more buttercream to make it even more perfect, but I don't need to. And I'm scraping the top of the cake, and look at that, because we made sure that the buttercream is completely leveled. It took only 2 scrapes, and now it's completely leveled and beautiful and clean. And I put some parchment paper to make it even more smooth, even smoother. Is that how you say it? Even smoother. Now I'm scraping some of the misperfections of the cake, and this is how it looks like after. Okay, you can still see the crumbs peeking, and I'm gonna show you how to make my cake look perfect. Okay, now I'm gonna move on to decorating my cake. I have the kit that I bought from AliExpress that I told you about before, and I also have the name of the girl that this cake belongs to and her age, and it's a bat mitzvah cake. And it's always very exciting for me to make bat mitzvah's cake and bar mitzvah's cakes and wedding cakes, and to be a part of people's special occasions. Okay, I placed the name, and buttercream is very forgiving in that way. You can move and shift your elements and it's not gonna show. I've added the fans, and I'm now adding the cake balls. And when adding cake balls, first add the large ones, then the medium ones, and then the small ones are for closing the holes and make everything look fuller. So this is my method. And I want to give you a general tip. Don't start your cakes last minute. Try to be prepared, bake the cakes a few days in advance, so that when you start stacking the cakes, everything will be completely chilled. Don't ever work on a warm cake, and make time for adjustments. Prepare your fillings and the buttercream and the elements in advance. It's gonna really help you enjoy the process of making the cake. If it's rushed, you're not gonna enjoy it. It's gonna bring you suffering. It's gonna ruin your day. You don't want to do that. And I think this is my greatest tip. Be prepared. So now I'm adjusting the decorations, and of course filling the holes that were created when I moved it. Again, it's super easy with buttercream, and it's like that with ganache too. So I'm adding 3 pearls, white pearls, and this is my pro tip: use gold leaves to hide the misperfections on your cake. And I'm gonna first add it to the crumbs that are sticking out and the holes that I didn't perfectly hide, and it's gonna my cake look flawless. No one will ever know that something went wrong in the process and that the cake wasn't perfect to begin with. It's gonna look amazing. And because I know that this is part of my cake decoration and my cake vision, I didn't stress too much about how it's gonna look like, and I didn't stress about the crumb coating and the holes and everything that went wrong in the process. So I'm spreading the gold leaves whenever I like, and this is how my cake looks like in the end. It's flawless, it's perfect, and it's beautiful. And thank you, Fast Form, for making my life super easy. Next up, I'm gonna use ganache.